why all relationships in life are really temporary. Nothing really ever lasts forever. And this is where we talk about attachments, right? And I'm not here to tell you that I'm the master of detachment either. In fact, I grew up as a very emotional child, as a very attached child, sorry, and I was a slave to my emotions for many, many, many years. And a lot of this can come down to the type of environment you were exposed to when you were growing up as a kid. A lot of these are learned habits, and there are studies that show that even when you are in your mother's womb, depending on their emotions and how they are living their lives, it can impact you when you are not even fully born and out of the womb, and until she gives birth. And a lot of these traits and characteristics are also developed during the first 3 to 5 to maybe 7 years of you being on this planet. So that therein lays the roots of your adulthood and how some of these things can shape you and show up a lot later in life. See, I grew up in a home, openly I talk about, a very domestically violent and unrestful makings, right? So my mother was extremely violent. She had a very, very bad temper. She gave my father a very difficult time growing up. Throughout his entire life, I've never seen my father happy. This is also a gateway into, more about the backstory about my life. At the end of the day, I get it. No one cares. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter to me how many people watch your story, subscribe to your channel, or don't subscribe to your channel. As a matter of fact, I came across this one kid this morning, 0 subscribers, no videos on his channel, talking a little bit of smack. It's okay, I get it. But it reminded me that it's comments like those that keep me going. So I say, embrace the hate and continue to tell your story, because there are people actually watching. I see YouTube giving some of my videos thousands of impressions. Now, whether people click on it or don't click on it, that's another story. So that just means I have room for improvement. But people are curious, because at the end of the day, you got to accept that you still are a nobody, and I am a nobody. So when you can cancel out the noise and you can step into the light of the negativity, that makes you just a bigger person, because you're not ducking. And here I am making a video that no one's really going to watch. But at the end of the day, it's important for those who find this video and who chooses to watch the video, right? So you're watching this, thank you. That's all I can ask for, whoever's watching this. And just like that, my relationship with YouTube also can be over, just like that. If I stop making content, if I stop producing videos, that's the end of my story, and that's the chapter. It ends right here. But see, there's a voice within me, a relationship with myself that's far greater than any relationship I have with anyone else. I would even say, even my dog, right? Your dog will know that you are out of character by the way they look at you on certain days, like, what's wrong with you, dude? Get it together. So I would say, before you even take care of someone and decide to get into an intimate relationship, you have to think twice about where you are mentally. And trust me, I'm no guru in relationship expert advice, but I can tell you that I have made mistakes. The codependent relationships, the rebounding relationships, the alcohol weighted decisions that I have made, abusing alcohol and getting into situationships and promising, and all of those situationships over life. You get to this point where you can actually look at it, reflect on it, and share your story. And so my synopsis in all of this is that I really enjoy YouTube and telling my story. This is the relationship I've built with myself. And I'm also sharing pieces of myself in a timeline here. And the growth is real. The speaking ability is real. The relationship with myself is real. I'm actually snapping out of negative self-talk, negative self-sabotaging myself, right? And powering through anxiety and powering through the negative voices to make these videos. So, no matter how perfect you are in life, or you try to be perfect, even if you have your flaws, and we all have them, right? You can present your best self with your significant other, your partner, your best friends, your acquaintances. Over time, you're just going to lose people. And that's where I have found myself to be in a space where I'm content with losing almost everyone that I have thus far. And I don't mean this in a morbid way, but you have to almost experience this kind of a loss. But in actuality, it's a gain. You're gaining something by subtraction, if you know what I mean. And a lot of us have hung on to certain friendships in our lives that are not really in the best interests of where we are trying to go. So some of us have goals and visions and dreams that we're trying to execute, but we need permission from these people who never supported us from the get-go, right? So you have to ask yourself the question, what friendships serve me? What relationships serve me, are feeding and fueling and pouring into my cup? Because you're going to find yourself seeking validation and approval with these relationships that have no, that they don't return the favor, right? They're not pouring into your cups. They're not supporting you the way you're supporting them. And you wonder why, when you make progress and you have small wins, there's no one cheering for you when you expected them to. So this thing about expecting them to have your back, you got to get rid of that expectation. And why do I say that? Is because the more you expect them to be a backbone for your success, or a backbone for your motivation, and having that support system, the more you set yourself up for failure. So essentially what you're doing is you're depending your success and your motivation in your next steps, you're kind of depending on them. And I get it, man. Like, if you are younger, it's always fantastic and awesome to have these role models with you, right? And for me, this was having my martial arts teachers throughout my career path, and throughout my tournament days and training, and putting myself out there with my master. And martial arts also exposes you to life, right? Your inner demons come out through how your body moves and how you train. And so that was my outlet. And that sort of remains a staple of my life now, even until today. But all that to say this is that if you are not good within yourself, right? If you are not aligned with your inner voice, if you're not true to yourself, you will never really truly be able to fulfill anyone else's needs. But at the end of the day, everything is still temporary. Like, there are seasons of love, right? And then there are seasons where you outgrow each other. And there are also seasons when you've overstayed in relationships. This doesn't necessarily have to be intimate relationships either. I have noticed that family ties and family roots, oftentimes keep us very crippled, right? There are certain values and traditions and expectations. I'm South Asian, so in my culture, this is very, very, it can be very toxic if you come from a broken home and, a cycle that's been abusive, right? And if these expectations are bestowed on your shoulders, this can be a very paralyzing position to be in, and it can take decades to break out of this and break all the norms and expectations of carrying a legacy. You are your own legacy. You don't necessarily have to, be seeped in and blended in with the family traditions and narratives that you're going to carry that negativity in this lifetime that's been given to you. This life has been given to you for you to pave it forward and break those chains, break those norms, be the first to do everything. I've been the first in my family to accomplish a lot of things that didn't seem possible, right? And a lot of times when I get phone calls and people want to reach out to me, it's really, when are you going to come and see me? When are you coming out to California, right? Like, people are, I wouldn't necessarily say dying to know my story, but people have noticed that I've made some moves in my life, right? Even this YouTube thing, this is all new. Like, I'm not new to YouTube, but this part of my journey and documenting this is all new. So people are seeing a different side of me, and how they receive me while they see this. I wouldn't say that they are necessarily fans because they're not on my channel. And I don't want them to be on my channel. I don't want them to be fans, but I know they're watching, right? YouTube is a space for you to come, right, and become one with the community and find your tribe. And that's what I am in the process of doing so. Again, I'm a nobody, but to some and a few, I may be a somebody. Wisdom is speaking and driving me forward and telling me you must share your story. And here I am sharing my story. You know, I talk about my dog quite a bit. She's 11 and a half. There are little health ailments that are now showing its card, and just showing signs of slowing down a little bit. Still, she's got that extra pep in her step, but still, I am watching her very closely and ensuring that she has a good life and giving her the best I can from my end. It is expensive, but you know, when this ride is over, the relationship and the memories that I've had, I know that she's going to move on to the next chapter, right? So I heard this guy, John Griffin, I follow him too. He's a little bit older than I am, definitely well into, I think he's pushing 60, but he talks about learning to say goodbye now. Like, you don't have to necessarily wait for people to pass away, or your dogs, your pets, right? Your relationships, whatever that's got you tied, you know, closer to the vest. You can actually start saying goodbye by separating yourself and practicing silence as a way to distance yourself. Silence is very powerful. Like, you don't have to speak venom. You don't have to spurt poisonous words, you know, to control your tongue. But I think that silence and distancing yourself and never justifying yourself for your decisions is the best way to go. Because I've done all of this. I have communicated. I have overly communicated. I have compromised myself by explaining myself too much, why I'm doing what I'm about to do, right? And when I tell people about my plans that this is what I'm going to do and separate, and I've come to this decision, I end up talking myself out of a decision and going backwards, right? So I'm just sharing pieces of how I operate, how I function. Even my move from California to Las Vegas, I manifested this dream. I manifested all of this. And a few people knew that this is what I was trying to do for the last 2 years or so before I made the move, but a lot had to go right for me to make the move and then land here. And even when I landed here, I didn't fully realize what a big deal this was. I didn't realize that I actually had ended, physically speaking, all my California relationships. Like, it happened like so easily. But when I look back on this, man, what a journey this has been, right? I didn't realize that that chapter in my life, it's over. So yes, there's still remnants of relationships that I used to have, but when I look behind me, California is done. Like, everything I knew, grew up with, I have left behind. And that's the end of relationships. This also includes my ex-girlfriends. You know, every now and then I'll hear from one or two of them here and there. You know, they spy on my Instagram. I've made my pages private too, by the way. But every now and then they'll pop their heads in, and I realize all the arguments we used to have, all the heaviness, all the stress, all the violence, meaning that, you know, we were pissed drunk essentially, and saying stuff that was just out of character. All of those things that we put each other through, the storms, just ended, man. Just ended, because it's not worth it. Ended meaning just break up and move on, and break it up and move. You're actually doing yourself and her a favor, vice versa. We drag a lot of things, including counseling. And once you hit the I don't think therapy actually works. I think that's a big bluff. It's a lie, especially for men. And a lot of times, the counselor, I've been to I've been to therapy sessions as well. A lot of times, the counselor, the therapist, will be on the side of the female, 100%. When you get to therapy, it's over. Like, let her go and just don't show up. Like, that's your way of saying, you know what, we're done. Like, I refuse to go to therapy. And more or less, I don't even do long-term relationships like that anymore. I don't do long-term relationships like that. I think seasonal things last for a season. And if you can accept that, you'll be in a better place. And I mean that. Everything has its season. Everything happens for a reason. And just like that, life goes by. Life, all of these moments here that we're, sharing on this planet Earth is temporary. Our souls, you know, they connect with each other, and they find each other in unique and the oddest of oddest ways, right? And it departs in the oddest of oddest ways. You'll never think that the story will unfold. The woman you met is not the woman you break up with. Vice versa. Who you are as a man, as a boy today, you won't be that person 5 years or so from now. At least I hope you're not. At least I hope you're growing and putting in the work, right, to find yourself, and you're peeling back layers of your soul. And a lot of times these relationships, right, that test your soul, that test your spirit, that put you in these uncomfortable situations, is a reflection of something that you haven't come to terms with. And that's why you guys are fighting, right? A lot of times this has to do with yourself, which is why I firmly believe that you are the greatest project you will ever work on. And you will forever be a work in progress project. So before you can all, make someone happy and get into a relationship and think it's forever, happily ever after, yes, I'm getting allergies though. To an extent, you will experience the happily ever after, but it's nothing lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever. I know this firsthand. And the ones that are staying have overstayed. I'm seeing firsthand that there's a lot of those that have opened up their marriages, opened up their relationships. What do they call it? Ethically non-monogamous, right? Although I don't think there's anything ethical about being non-monogamous. I will just break up because I don't want your disease, right? So it's just that people want the benefits of a relationship, and psychologically they think it's stable because they are married, right? They have a status symbol, but then they want the benefits of being single. So if I had to choose, it's pretty straightforward for me that you should be single and choose what you would like to do with your life, because then you're going to end up hurting each other. And this is where detachment, learning how to detach, learning how to break up, learning when to walk away, serves you well in the long term, in the long run. Okay? So that was my short stint. I say short, and this video is like nearly 20 minutes long, about why everything in life is temporary. All relationships end. All relationships are temporary. And me, myself, coming up to this age that I'm at, it's all wisdom. Like, my expectations are realistic. I'm okay to enjoy things for a season, because if you don't get into this habit and thinking this way, then she will make sure that she will remind you that why seasons work in everyone's best interest and favor, and in their favor. So before you start thinking long term and seeing gardens and roses and all, she's not thinking this way, dude. This is what Disney has taught us. This is what Disney movies have done to us, hopeless romantics. I think guys, this day and age, we tend to Disneyfy a lot of these, romantic movies, which are nothing like that. I myself in entertainment, acting, and I know behind the scenes, everyone is hooking up with each other. It's very seldom it's the main character and the girl that are meant to be a romantic interest on a set, but behind the scenes they're actually banging someone else, right? So you can't fall in love with the final product, because at the end of the day, even that has a plot and a storyline, and it's all fake. I know this sounds a little morbid, a little ripping off the band-aid kind of talk, but That's how I see it. And realistically, I live in Las Vegas, so I see a lot that happens here when married people come out here for vacations and people in relationships, and I see how careless and ruthless they are when it comes to hooking up with other people. So all relationships have a shelf life. Okay, and if you're wondering where this shirt is from, this polo shirt, it's from Tailored Athlete. How your clothes fit you is your brand. And if you want to get in shape, it's a size small, put in the work. Till the next video, Mamba out.